Well, first of all, the USA ID, right, is going to be essentially controlled by the government, and so that automatically scares people, and that's what brings a lot of people to Web3 over the past few years, is the decentralization, and so we've both seen, right, how much attention is coming to like this decentralized identity, and that's the main difference, right? Is that it's decentralized versus the government's going to control it. And even though the like let's say something like a Rise ID or a similar product where all of your information is there, you still can choose to put that somewhere, right? You're in charge of where that goes. Where something maybe like a USA ID or maybe something else that pops up, you might not control where it goes, right? Not all the time. It's still very, very new, this idea, but even though something's public doesn't mean you want it public everywhere, right? People have public Instagrams, but that doesn't mean that you want everyone to see your public Instagram, right?
Welcome to Only the Savvy, where we explore the latest developments in fintech, crypto, and innovation. Today, we're joined by Austin Heaton, the head of content at Rise, to discuss the company's cutting edge approach to payments, compliance, and digital identity. Rise is a fintech innovator that leverages blockchain technology to revolutionize payments, streamline compliance, and empower secure digital identity solutions. Thank you for joining the show today, Austin.
Thanks for having me on. Excited to get started.
Absolutely. So, can you tell us what sparked your interest in fintech and crypto, and how did you get started into this industry?
Yeah, it might actually be a little bit different of a story than most people, but that's what we're here for, interesting stories, right? So basically, I got into Web3 as a whole over 5 years ago. And what got me interested in it, was not actually technology, was not anything I heard. No one I knew was invested, in crypto at the time. What got me into it was that this was before COVID, this was before everyone worked remotely, and I already worked remotely for myself at the time. I was in the fitness industry where I had like a fitness blog. I did writing for a lot of fitness companies, and I was already the atypical Web3 guy, right? Where we all work remotely. I did that years ago when not a lot of people did that, and I wanted growth in my career, and I'm like, okay, well, I love what I'm doing, but I want some more growth, salary wise, responsibility wise, and I want to do a little bit more traveling and, get in an international industry, an industry that I could see growing and me being in for the next, 30 years, and I knew that I didn't want to be in fitness. So I was like, okay, well, what am I interested in? I was already investing in stocks and things like that. And so just through research, I started to, stumble upon crypto just more and more, right? Bitcoin, things like that. And my first thing I actually invested in was Ethereum because what interested me was the smart contracts, right? Because years ago, I even saw, okay, I can see these becoming like airplane tickets. I can see these becoming like, football game tickets and things like that. And it just kind of made sense to me right away. And once I got involved, once you're invested, then you do a lot of research, right? Because now you got skin in the game. And so I started looking into all these things and I just went down the rabbit hole, got extremely interested, started using my skills. I already had about 5, 6 years of content SEO experience at the time. And because Web3 is so new, especially 5, 6 years ago, it's hard to find someone with that kind of experience that wanted to take a risk and jump into the space. And I was that guy. And I actually started at Cointelegraph, of all places. And it was a great starting point, right? Because then anywhere I went after that, it was kind of like this big name that I could throw out there. And just kind of went from there. And here we are now.
Wow, what the journey from fitness to Cointelegraph. So, what drew you to Rise, and what does your role as head of content entail?
So what drew me to Rise was, first of all, a little backstory, and that was just kind of interesting. I actually got my job at Rise through a Web3 decentralized recruitment agency, Brain Trust. I'm not sure if anyone knows about Brain Trust, but they actually hit me up on LinkedIn, and it was just one of those jobs. I'm not saying this because I'm at Rise right now, but it was one of those jobs where I was actually getting hit up a lot. I had a lot of opportunities, I'm glad to say. But when I saw this, it was kind of like everything was perfect, where I had full responsibility. It was going to say you have full responsibility, and I love that because I know the quality of the stuff I produce. I know that it has results, and no one likes to be micromanaged. And I could tell right away that the CMO at the time and the CEO, Hugo, that they kind of wanted you to be an expert in your field and you to take responsibility for your own things and to perform. And I'm a big believer in that you should perform every day, and that motivates me. And I saw a lot of growth potential, which was the main thing. Which was, I obviously researched the site a lot before I applied officially, and I was like, this is actually an interesting product. It's one of those products where it sounds boring on paper, but when you actually tell people in a different way, it's actually very interesting, right? So as head of content, I say that's my main job most of the time, right? Is I'm supposed to make difficult topics sound easy, and I'm supposed to make them sound interesting as well, right? So if I'm at a conference, right, and I go up to you, Nicole, and I say, "Oh yeah, well we do, international payroll." It sounds boring,
It
right? Oh,
does.
payroll,
Yeah.
payroll compliance. Like you're gonna be like, "Okay, well, bye." But when I go up to you and I say, "Well, actually, you can pay your global team with stablecoins
Mhm.
or with fiat, or you can do a mix of both, which is hybrid payroll, and you as the employer can fund your payroll however you want. You can fund in USDC, USDT, you can fund in dollars. It's the complete flexibility. So everyone in Web3 talks about these Web3 ideas, but at Rise we actually live them, right?
Yeah.
Even the platform itself is built on Arbitrum.
Wow.
So there's a lot of people coming to our space, the crypto payroll space, but they have to like outsource their crypto payroll component, where we're actually Web3 native. We don't outsource anything. It's all Rise. And so what I do as head of content is I do everything. I'm the one man band. Like I said, I love the responsibility, but I do all of the SEO, the writing, I do the strategy of the SEO down to the writing, down to the very nitty gritty. I control every part of the process. I do the social media strategy and the creation.
Wow.
I do, partnerships for, content, podcasts like this. That's all me. Everything that basically an outsider would see, including reports, anything like that, that's all me. So
Wow.
it's a great honor, and I'm actually, really proud that we've had such phenomenal growth, especially on the content side, because it's just been me.
Wow.
We had, one of my greatest achievements so far that I love to share is I started at Rise March last year, so almost a year there now, and we have not run one paid Google ad. We only on Google it's 100% organic, and just through my organic SEO strategy and inbound strategy, we increased our traffic 174% in 2024.
Holy
Yeah,
cow. That is unbelievable and actually unheard of almost. Wow.
thank you, thank you.
Wow. So before we get into any of that strategies that you were just talking about, I want to learn more about Rise. What exactly does Rise do to help customers with traditional payment systems facing high fees and slow transactions? It seems
Yep,
like something we're constantly hearing about. So,
of
what's
course.
their approach?
So I'll start at the broad, overview, and then I'll kind of go deeper and more
Okay.
niche. So basically, right, what's a huge problem in Web3, right, is is paying, essentially just paying your contractors and paying your employees, because Web3 teams are very international, especially a team like Rise. So for example, me, myself, I'm in Poland right now. A lot of our developers are in Brazil. We have our CEOs from France. We have a big team in the US. So, we have a completely international team, and people have to get paid in an easy way. And what's crazy about this in Web3 is there's two things. So it'll be a Web3 company, right? An example, and then they'll tell their employees, well, we can't actually pay you in crypto. And I think that sounds insane. You're a crypto company and you can't pay in crypto. So that's one thing we solve right away. And then another thing is the compliance side. So everything is completely automated. That boring word, compliance.
Yes.
But we handle automatically taxes and onboarding. So that's a huge headache for like HR people and accountants and things like that. But let's say that you're hiring me, and let's say that I'm in Poland. You're like, oh, I don't know Poland taxes. I don't know any of this.
Yeah.
Rise handles all of that automatically. So all you have to do to onboard me, right, is send an email, and I onboard completely automated. Rise automates the taxes. We generate professional service agreements. I put in my crypto wallet. I put in my bank account, everything. It's extremely easy. And so it honestly takes the contractor maybe 20 minutes to get completely signed up, and then we're already going. It's not this process where it takes 2 days, a week, to get people started, and we got to check with legal and all these things. Everything is already done on the platform. And in terms of the transaction fees, as you mentioned, why people love us is because, there's all these terms popping up. There's regular payroll, but there's crypto payroll, and there's stablecoin payroll, right? Because as much as we all love Bitcoin, I'm a Bitcoin maxi myself. I don't want to get paid in Bitcoin. I want to get paid in stablecoins, right? And so that is what people love us for the most, because you're able to, all these people, especially these developers in Argentina and Turkey and stuff like that, they have very volatile currencies, so they want to get paid in stable coins. And before Rise, it's very hard for their company to provide them that opportunity, right? They're like, we actually get told this all the time, and it still blows our mind in 2025. People will come to us, they'll book a demo, they'll tell our sales team, they'll say, our sales team will ask, how are you currently handling crypto transactions, paying your contractors? And they'll literally say, well, I have a Google sheet and I put the wallet address of each person in there, and then I just kind of put the transaction, code in there as well. And the crazy thing about that, as we all know in crypto, if you add one letter wrong, one number, even a space, that money's gone. That money is gone forever. And so that's a huge thing that we solve, is the trust, and when we make sure there's no mistakes. And so this whole big thing, everything I mentioned, is why people come to Rise.
Wow. You guys offer quite the services there. Now, we heard about the payment side. Now, let's start getting into this decentralized ID, because I'm very fascinated by Rise's use of decentralized IDs for professionals. Can you explain how these IDs work and why they're a game changer for security and trust?
Of course. So when someone onboards onto Rise, again, we'll use that same example. You're the employer, you send me the invite, I onboard as the contractor. I get a Rise ID. And so that Rise ID is just for me, right? That's a decentralized ID. And it has a wallet address where I can get paid. I can take it to, we're still expanding to taking it to a lot of other platforms, but I'll explain to you how it's going to work when it's fully complete. Basically, is this decentralized ID has my information, and because I was KYC'd and AML'd on Rise when I was going through the onboarding process, whenever I take this Rise ID to another platform, it already shows that basically I'm trustworthy, right? Because I've already verified my address, I've verified all these things. But we go a step further, right? Because we're part of the employment industry, which is in the Rise ID, you can even show your work history, your certifications, your education, your portfolio, all these things. So it's basically like your wallet, it's a crypto wallet where you can get paid, but whenever you see that ID, you also see everything that I've done for the past 10, 11 years. And that's the coolest part about it, right? It's everything you want basically. Like it's a HR dream, right? To have everything right there.
Sounds like an unbelievable concept to offer that for employment and other different situations. Now, I'm over here located in the US, and right now we're hearing about USID and the many, many complications that keep floating around in the headlines. Are you
Yeah.
able to provide an explanation, maybe on the differences between USAID and RISE?
Well, first of all, the USAID, right, is going to be essentially controlled by the government, and so that automatically scares people, you know,
Yeah.
and that's what brings a lot of people to Web3 over the past few years, you know, is the decentralization, and so we've both seen, right, how much attention is coming to like this decentralized identity, and that's the main difference, right? Is that it's decentralized versus the government's going to control it. And even though the like let's say something like a Rise ID or a similar product where all of your information is there, you still can choose to put that somewhere, right? You're in charge of where that goes. Where something maybe like a USAID or maybe something else that pops up, you might not control where it goes, right? Not all the time. It's still very, very new, this idea, but even though something's public doesn't mean you want it public everywhere, right? You know, people have public Instagrams, but that doesn't mean that you want everyone to see your public Instagram, right? So it's kind of the same thing. And that's the main difference I see is that the choice to have complete control because on in web3 no one's going to come up to you and say like, oh hey, you have to update this or you have to put this here, right? Like the USAID might.
Wow, that was extremely helpful for us to understand both the differences and the importance around it too. Now, jump into our favorite word, compliance. Compliance is a huge challenge for global companies.
Yep.
How does Rise navigate these complex regulations, and what advice would you offer to companies looking to expand internationally?
Yeah, great question. What we do is we have a completely, dedicated compliance team that is constantly, always searching and always talking and always figuring out what needs to be done, what's current, what's not. We also have them, actively using tools, obviously, things like that. But what's very cool about it is, like I mentioned, is when you onboard, basically all of that is done, right? Most of those things are done ahead of time. And let's say that a new regulation comes out that directly affects you, directly affects our business. Within 24 hours, you as the client on Rise will be directly notified of this change. And if we're able to, if it's something that's an easy fix, we'll be able to help you do that. Or we'll give you basically the information and some guidance of, okay, hey, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And so that makes it extremely easy, right? Because you don't need to have this whole compliance team. You already have it with Rise. And that's what you want, especially if you're a smaller business, because Web3, you can be a 2, 3 man band and
Mm-hmm.
you could be a huge business, but you're so busy with all these other things, you might have 3 developers, they don't know anything about compliance, right? You don't want to have to deal with that. You want Rise to deal with that. And so we take care of all that through our partners and through our in-house team.
Wow, that's a big headache that you guys are taking care of for a lot of
Absolutely.
individual businesses. So it's very much
Absolutely.
appreciated. So, stepping into crypto adoption right now, with crypto gaining mainstream acceptance, where do you see us on the adoption curve? And what steps need to be taken for crypto to become truly adopted?
So I've been saying this the past couple of weeks now, I'd say the past month, the first killer use case, that's going to go public and the public is going to say, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's going to be stablecoins. It's absolutely going to be stablecoins. And that's what's super, super interesting at Rise, and especially my role as someone who creates the content at Rise is we've seen this. It's kind of obvious for us, for the past year that it's obviously stable coins. We see the volume. We see how easy it is. We hear people say how it, changes their lives and their business. And now all of a sudden, stable coins have all this attention, right? People are thinking just now, right? Because a couple days ago, the US just announced that new regulation, right? The Stablecoin Genius Act, which basically has these, you have to show proof of reserves, licensing, all these things. But if everyone remembers, back in 2024, in the summer, and even later in the year, it was like a stablecoin frenzy, right?
Yeah.
Like Ripple launched their own. PayPal was moving on to Solana.
Ooh, yeah.
You had, you have everyone, you have Revolut, the big European like online banking app. They want to launch their own. You have banks, actual banks launching their own stablecoin. And so for us, it was just obvious. Like we share it, the news in our work chat, but it's like so obvious. And then now everyone talks about it and we're like, well, yeah, it's stablecoins. Because again, it's remittances where people send money across borders. That's such a huge thing. It's such a huge problem where it's always either an app is untrustworthy or the transaction fee is extremely high or it's difficult. Stablecoins have this perfect blend where they're easy to use, they're very easy to understand, they're cheap, and your value, doesn't fluctuate at all. And so there's so many companies working on it right now, right? We saw Bridge got acquired, and we see all these companies implementing stablecoins. And I think that's what brings adoption, from, I believe we're at 560 million as of 2024 reports. I believe that's what takes us to, a billion is stablecoins.
Wow. It's funny because you're the second person I've heard this again today that they mentioned. They feel like the mass adoption is going to be the stablecoin movement.
Yep.
I'm like, holy cow, this is really here.
Yep.
So how is Rise driving this adoption?
So you're the first person to hear it, Nicole. This is especially for
nice.
you. Yeah, next week or probably definitely before the end of the month, Rise is about to hit 500 million in total payment volume on our platform. And that's an incredible number for a Web3 native platform. That's huge. And we started only a couple years ago, so you can see how incredible this growth is going. And that's just an incredible number. And we're looking for the next 500 million.
Absolutely. Congratulations on that milestone. That
Thank
is
you.
very
Thank you.
huge. Anyone
Thank you.
listening, 500 million right there.
That's
So,
right.
what exciting innovations on the horizon do you believe will disrupt the fintech space? I know we hear about stablecoins, but are there any emerging trends or technologies that have caught your attention recently?
Honestly, it's funny that you asked that, but you already have it kind of as a decentralized ID. And I'm going to give you some even more insights that's kind of interesting. So I always joke around that I have like this SEO brain because I love SEO, and I've never really played video games, but SEO feels like a video game because you have like these rankings, right? I can see where I'm at on Google, right? If I'm number 1 link, number 5, not even on the first page, things like that. And so I do research every day, and I always try to find these terms that have a high volume but low difficulty, right? Like the low-hanging fruit. And over the past 6 months, I constantly keep seeing it. Decentralized identity, decentralized ID, or some variation of that, like Web3 ID, Web3 identity, DeFi, personality, some variation of that. And I keep seeing it more and more and more. And that I think is going to be the next big thing. I think it's going to be like a stablecoin thing with decentralized identities. And those two together are going to be the next, big technology. So it's very interesting that you already kind of have that in your notes.
Wow. Wow. That's super exciting. The both
Yeah.
together pushing forward. It's
Yeah.
exciting. So, how does Rise approach partnerships with other companies in fintech? What kind of collaborations have proven most effective in driving innovation? I know you mentioned before, like you are the person in charge of that, you oversee all of that. So, can you elaborate?
So we're pretty open to a lot of things, which is very, I would say unique compared to a lot of companies our size, because we're no longer a small business. I would say, we've had already two, successful series, that we've completed with fundraising, but especially on my end, I listen to every single pitch. I'm the only guy that will open every single email. I listen to everything first because I want to know what's happening. And if I even see one thing that I haven't heard of before, that's something that I'm ahead of the game, kind of, right? I'm like,
Huh.
okay, I do research every day. I've never heard of this product. I've never heard of this use case. I'm going to hear this guy out. And so that's one thing that's kind of led to some partnerships. This is actually pretty interesting where we thought it wouldn't go anywhere, but I'm like, I'm just going to talk to this guy because I want to hear what this is about. And then it's actually pretty interesting. Another use case, which is my favorite, is I'll go to a product or like a marketing tool, and I'll say I want to hop on a call, and we hop on a call, and I'm trying to have them sell me like, why do I need your tool? And then before we start talking, they're like, I looked at Rise, we actually need that. Yeah, and so it's like I'm a sales guy, and I'm like, okay, well, what do you want to know?
Yeah.
That, and then we're actually launching a product, which is it's a big part. It's been a long time coming, which is actually called EOR, which is Employer of Record, and this is
Ooh.
super exciting. I'm
Yeah.
not sure how many people are familiar with this. Employer of Record is actually you can hire full-time employees, which means you can offer for US, let's say for example 401k. You can offer health insurance, all these things that you can get from a full-time job. We're offering that even if you're a company located in a different country, because Rise is basically that employer of record. That's why it has that name. Is you're basically using Rise, our entity in the US, to hire this person, and you're able to offer them full-time employees, offer them full benefits as a
Yeah.
full-time employee. Whereas right now, most people in Web3 are contractors, right? Where essentially you just get paid, but you don't really have any benefits. And so that's something we're pretty excited about, and we're going to be launching pretty soon. But that's directly related to those partnerships because we've been hearing a lot of interest and need for something like that, and so we've been pushing harder every time someone comes to us mentioning that.
Wow. No, that is a very important need. I myself have been a contractor before, and I know how important those benefits are sometimes and how difficult companies can be to provide that. So, for something like this, that's
Yeah,
extremely important, especially just for contractors or anyone to afford this. With that
absolutely.
being said, how does Rise balance the innovation with the risk management? Because one could assume there's probably a lot of, different parts with this.
Yep. So great question. We're always expanding our team in the compliance side. And we recently, no, not recently, a few months ago, we hired a payroll manager, and it's his full-time job. His name's Ben. He's doing a great job. And basically it's his job to, talk with, regulators and figure out everything that needs to be done. And he's up to date along with our compliance team.
Wow.
So again, we're aware of all the risks ahead of time, and if something pops up, we tell you within 24 hours.
That's amazing. That gets me into my next question, a little more into regulatory matters. Are there specific regulatory hurdles that Rise is currently facing, and how could policymakers better support this innovation in the fintech space?
To be honest, it's all of the recent regulation has only been friendly towards Rise and what we're
That's great
doing.
to hear.
That's yeah, I honestly can't think of anything that I could say, unfriendly, where especially all this stablecoin stuff, I'd say maybe for some people, some other companies in Europe that operate in Europe, Mica is making things pretty difficult with stablecoins. But for us, everything has been great, especially like I mentioned, that new Stablecoin Genius Act, right? And especially just all of the interest in stablecoins has regulators and governments, paying attention. And they're basically saying, we can't ignore it, we can't get rid of it, so we have to just find a way to make it easy for people to use. And I got to say, they've been helping us out.
That's extremely positive to hear that it's been helpful and they're helping you out with everything. So, looking ahead, even 5 to 10 years from now, what impact do you envision decentralized finance having on traditional finance systems? And will we see a complete overhaul, or will decentralized finance coexist with the current system?
That's a great question. Very interesting too. Something I've been thinking about as well. I've been writing a lot of content about it, and I think that they're going to coexist. But I think DeFi has basically forced TradFi to not be so, I want to say, arrogant, where you can't just expect that people are going to use your bank or use your product because you're the only product around, right? Let's say 15 years ago, where are you going to hold your money? Has to be in the bank, right? Has to be. There's just nothing you could do. If you don't like it, too bad. If you don't like the fees, too bad. If you don't like getting 1% or 0.5%, interest per year, too bad. Go somewhere else or hold it under your mattress. Now, especially stablecoins again, and again with stablecoins is people are holding their money in stablecoins. They're getting like 8% a year, 12% a year. There's all these opportunities for like peer-to-peer lending. There's stablecoin loans. There's payday loans that people are doing through stablecoins. So the first thing is every bank is probably going to make their own stablecoin. That's
Wow.
my guess. My guess was within the next 5 to 10 years, every bank is going to have their own stablecoin. Because I did this the other day. It was the only opportunity, well, not the opportunity because it was bad. It was the only time that I had to do like a wire transfer from my bank to a different person because I got into a new apartment. They didn't know crypto, and I had to do like a wire transfer. First of all, it was like 25 bucks,
Gosh,
$25. And it doesn't matter the amount. If you send 10 grand, it's $25. If you sent
$5.
$25, it'll be
Yeah.
$25. So that was the same. And then it took like 2 days. And I used Chase. And 2 days might have used to sound fast, but now because we're in crypto, you want it now. And I'm a Solana lover too, so that's very fast. And so 2 days, I was like, this is insane. This is insane. And so that's one thing is every bank will have their own stablecoin. And I think again, the the interest is going to have to go up because people are going to put their money elsewhere if the bank isn't, offering competitive rates. And not only with the rates for the savings, like I just mentioned, we just saw it, what was it, a month ago? I believe it was a month ago. Coinbase is, now allowing you to take loans from your Bitcoin because that's essentially your asset, so that is your leverage. So the cool thing is, think about it. If you go to something like SoFi or another loan lender, you have to go through this long process. Hey, Nicole, how much
Hmm.
money do you make? How much do you pay in rent? How old are you? Well, all these things. But if you have a Bitcoin, Coinbase doesn't care at all. They say, well, we'll loan you 20 grand. It's your Bitcoin. If you can't pay it back, we just take the 20 grand from your Bitcoin. And it doesn't that just make so much sense?
Yeah.
Doesn't this just make so much, it's your collateral. And I've actually been doing this. I use Nexo. I'm in Europe and I like Nexo. I've been doing this for over a year now. Nexo's had it where I love to buy stocks too. I'm able to buy US stocks like Tesla and things like that, MicroStrategy. I literally will pull out 10 grand from my Bitcoin and I'll just buy stock instantly. And that way I have the stock working for me and I didn't have to sell any of my Bitcoin. So now I have two assets and I just pay back the loan on Nexo and now I never had to lose any Bitcoin. So
Holy
it's
cow.
incredible. And I think that is going to be huge. That's going to be
Yes.
huge because people are going to be like, I don't want to basically have to sell myself to buy a house or to buy a car. I want to use my own money. I don't have to go through all these hoops.
No.
And especially, on a house, right? Think about it. You have to pay, if you don't pay 20% down, you have to pay all these extra fees, right?
Oh yeah.
But 20% for a lot of people, is a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
But you have to go and you got to sign all these things. And it's almost like it hurts. I've done it before. I bought a
Same
house.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, I hate signing contracts. I hate putting my name on things.
Yeah.
It's just, I hate it.
You're in
And
that
so now,
lawyer's office for a while.
yeah, there you go. There you go. And so now that's what people are going to choose, especially younger people, right? They're going to say, well, Wells Fargo or Chase is making me do all this. I'm just going to do this. And so I think, again, that's going to force these traditional financial institutions to have to compete and have to offer the same thing.
It's definitely going to push something. So this is going to lead me into my next question for you. What advice would you give to individuals wanting to get involved in fintech, but who don't know where to start? Are there any resources or communities you could recommend?
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite questions so far. I actually write about this a lot, which is you have to become a specialist in your field. This is something I've really seen and something I'm very serious when I tell my friends, because I've gotten a lot of friends into Web3. I say you can't be a generalist. You have to be a generalist to know about all things, but in order to get a good job in Web3, you have to be a specialist, right? Because now, even when you look at developers, right, a Web3 developer, no role says, I need a developer or a DeFi developer. What does it say? I need a Rust developer. I need a Solidity developer. I need someone with experience in Solana dApps,
Yep.
right? So you could be a great developer. Too bad. We need a specialist in this. Just like a marketer, right? Oh, I'm just a social media marketer. Okay, but are you a specialist in Discord? Do you know how to run Telegram groups? Do you know about Warpcast yet? Have you even heard of Warpcast? Do you know all these things? So you have to be a specialist. And I would say focus on what that naturally is interesting to you, right? So like me, I love SEO. I've been doing SEO for 11 years now. I'm an SEO specialist. And then you can kind of add these things, right? That's your base. And then you can add the things on. The resources, I would say, is if you can go to conferences and talk to people there, that's phenomenal. But then there's also things like Coursera, right? Or there's things like you can even go to, Binance and they have all these guides, right? Like if you're someone that doesn't know anything about Web3 but you want to get involved, literally go to like the glossary pages. I personally do this at Rise. I have a huge glossary on our website, which is just all these terms of brands, products, new ideas, old ideas, and it tells you complete guides, runs through the whole thing, and you'll basically, become somewhat of an expert, the more you read. So you just have to be in the game too, right? You got to be in the game.
You do. No, that's 100% right. And great advice to anyone seeking more information on how to get involved into this industry. I did have a question for you.
Yep.
Out of conferences, are there any conferences that Rise is going to be attending at this year?
We'll be at Consensus 2025 in Toronto, Canada.
Cool. Cool. I will be
So,
attending that event as well too, so I'll see you guys there.
yes. Oh,
Yep,
nice. Well, we'll be hanging out for sure then.
absolutely. I'll definitely hit you up.
Oh, yeah.
So, for our listeners who want to learn more about Rise and its innovative approach to payments and compliance, where can they find more information and stay up to date on the latest developments?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So our website is Rise, RISE, works, just how you spell works, .io. So riseworks.io. And then honestly, it's pretty interesting, in the Web3 field, but we're very active on LinkedIn. A lot of people are, Twitter, X degens. We're on Twitter, of course, we post every day. But if you really want to talk to me, or if you really want to talk to anyone at Rise very quickly, you go to LinkedIn, because as head of content, I even put this into place a few months ago. I said, we need to all be posting, me, CEO, head of sales, SDRs, CMO. Everybody needs to be posting on LinkedIn minimum 3 times per week, minimum, because it's free money. It's free money. So you will never see me off of LinkedIn. Never. It is 10 p.m. right now. I'll be on LinkedIn. So that's the best way to reach us. And then, of course, book a demo. We would love that if you book a demo.
Awesome. That sounds great. And before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts or insights you'd like to share about the future of fintech, crypto, or digital identity?
I think I said a lot, but I have one thing to say about getting into Web3 and about the future of working in Web3, if that's cool.
Okay.
I think we're in a time with so much technology, so many new tools, AI, and now that there's attention in Web3 and crypto as a whole, you cannot be complacent in any way. And that might scare some people away from Web3, but you have to perform every single day. And Web3, startups, it's a bloodbath. People smell blood in the water. They'll take that business from you. They'll create the similar product. They'll take it from you. They'll go after whatever you're doing, and you always have to be learning. There's always something. That's why literally I have tools where I'm tracking trends that aren't even trends yet. It's like a potential trend. And because I want to write about it and I want to know about it before it becomes a trend, right? Because just like all these social medias, right? If you're a social media person, you know what? If I'm the first person to Instagram in 2010, I'm rich, right? If I was the first person to TikTok, I'm rich.
Oh, yeah.
So all these trends, we think we want to be the first person for this trend, right? And so you always have to be learning, always have to be performing. I love it. I love speed. I love progressing. But that's one thing I would really tell people, especially going from traditional finance into fintech.
That's great advice for anyone seeking employment opportunities in Web3 to understand how it is, because it's not like your typical Web2 job where your daily tasks are the same thing every single day. This is putting on many different hats, as you heard from Austin state in the beginning of this interview, the numerous different things. But at the end of the day, it's an unbelievable, remarkable industry that is creating some unbelievable innovation to help lives and just push forward.
It's worth it.
Definitely is. Austin, this has been an amazing conversation. You're doing incredible work in blockchain, privacy, and digital identity, and I can't wait to see what you guys accomplish next. For everyone watching, you can connect with Austin on LinkedIn, as he said, to stay up to date with all of his projects and news on Rise, and his articles as well. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Thank you again for tuning in to Only the Savvy, and as always, stay savvy.
SIM swap fraud is sweeping the globe, and your mobile security is at risk. Switch to Efani and lock out SIM swap fraud and get the most elite mobile protection in the world. Efani guarantees 100% protection from SIM swaps, backed by a $5 million insurance policy. Stay secure with reliable coverage, free international roaming, and unlimited data. Trust Efani to keep your communications and assets secure. Get military-grade protection, 24/7 concierge service, and a hassle-free upgrade. Click the link below for $150 off. Thanks for watching. Help support this channel and receive exclusive offers from one of our partners located in the description. We'll see you on the next one.